too. She went to Reynolds High School a couple years behind me and graduated from Chapel Hill. And then we have two beautiful boys, a 7-year-old named Cal and a 4-year-old named Knox, and they're amazing and the best. I mean, it's I have a wonderful family. I'm blessed, very blessed to have the people that I have in my corner, and then obviously I got family in the area, so it makes a lot of things better and easier and just easy to love on people, find love.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously, as a head football coach in this county for years, I'm very familiar with your father. Many times he was the line judge on the sidelines with me coaching, and it was just great conversation with him during the games. It's just some great things I could tell all day long. Just wonderful stories about how much he cares about kids too.
Oh,
So
for sure.
we're just so glad to have you on here tonight. Let's just get right into some of these questions. Why did you choose coaching?
Well, my dad wasn't just an official; he was a coach, and I feel like most youth, what they're around is what you're a product of what you're around a lot of times. And my dad was a high school baseball coach at Edneyville, and he was ended up being at Apple Valley as a football coach, and he was just a golf coach, just always coaching me. And then I always had a dream of being obviously a major league baseball player. That's what I wanted to be. But then, God had other things in store for me, whether and I have those kind of genes and that kind of thing go on for me. But um, I took a little bit less different road than a lot of people took. I was in about I guess around 12 years old when your friends start getting mustaches and all that stuff. Well, God put me on a little different path, and it was a little slower path. So I didn't start growing until I was about a junior in high school, and I went to Robertson High School, and baseball was super competitive. My senior year, they made the state championship game. The year after I graduated, they won the state championship. Unfortunately, once I played with these guys all the way up until then, 8th grade, and then when I got to ninth grade, I got cut from the team, and I came back out as a sophomore and I got cut again, and I came back as a junior and I got cut again, and then I didn't come back as a senior, and I just worked, and I never went to a baseball game in high school. It crushed me. Like it was like a really like it's something that still kind of it still kind of lives inside of me sometimes as far as like, but it also has made me a better coach because I keep kids around sometimes that normally may not be kept around. I do some different things, and then sometimes it comes back to bite me in the rear in the end because these sometimes kids expect to they play just because they're on the team, and I could have gone a different route with you at the beginning of the year anyway. But my heart for a kid that loves baseball, and in the situation that I was in high school at the school I was at, it was extremely competitive, and I grew into it. I got back into my athleticism when I came back in, and during college I was able to jump back into to being able to be on par with people my age and stuff like that. But it was definitely a huge hurdle as far as like getting going. I obviously didn't play college. I played every bit of summer baseball, anything I could get my hands on to play. And then I was a student assistant at Appalachian for 1 year while I was up there, and then I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to teach PE and knew I wanted to coach baseball. And then I set my goals and started out at Reynolds Middle School and coached there from I was in 2004. I took coached 4 seasons of middle school baseball. And then I moved to North Henderson. I was fortunate enough to become the JV head coach for 4 seasons, and then I became the varsity head coach. And it's been a decade of me being head coach. But I remember vividly being in health class and kids asking me, what are you we would be talking about goals, and they're like, what are your goals? I was like, I don't know where I'm going to be, but I'm going to be a head baseball coach somewhere. It might be this school, it's going to be somewhere, but that's, I put my mind to it, and I wanted it. I definitely worked for it.
Well, I can tell you what, I came on staff with FCA in January, and I started hanging around you and your baseball program pretty early on. And I'll tell you what, we talk about Coach Said, and at North Henderson High School on that baseball field, Coach Said is something special. Just to watch you interact with those kids and how it's more than just baseball. For this coach right here, folks that are watching this, it's more than baseball. I can promise you, he treats these kids well and holds them accountable. And you can still be tough on kids and still be a nice guy and hold kids accountable. So Thank you for what you do out there, Coach. What we've got some deeper questions going, but I always try to ask, what's a win for you?
Well, that gets a little like I told you when we were warming up tonight before this that I got into it with my own brain today, looking at old pictures and old rosters, and I keep a list of alumni, and just a win for me is um, seeing kids become men. I got kids that are firefighters, real estate agents, a pit crew for NASCAR, and the former players that do all kinds of things. And you know, I've had one that was fortunate enough to get drafted and get a chance to play for a little bit in the minor leagues and get to play in ACC baseball and play in Omaha and things like that. But that's a win. You know, getting to see some kids go on, but that's on them. That's really on that kid. But a win for me is just watching going to weddings. I got to go to a wedding this summer or last before COVID, I guess. And it's really special when a guy runs down the aisle and his brother goes, "Hey, coach, you can't leave. Max saw you, and he wants to make sure that he wants to make sure you talk to him." I'm like, he was walking down the aisle with his bride and send somebody back in to get me to make sure I don't leave without talking to him. And then I had a player that graduated for me my first year, and last year he calls me and says, "I need you to come to my mom's funeral," and those are the kind of things that's a win like that. To me, that takes it makes me have cold chills sitting here thinking about the fact that I'm someone for just one, even if it just is just one of my players that's able to do that and call me back and ask me like, can you come to my mom's funeral? I didn't know the mom, I knew the kid, and it was just um, we do a lot of like just when my players come back like, and then this year I've gotten the chance to be blessed and see. I just saw a Facebook post of one of my former players this weekend coaching baseball. It was at Jackson Park for a practice for my son. I saw one of my players from 2012 coaching baseball, volunteering with his dad out coaching baseball at Jackson Park with no kids, like just out there coaching the team, no kid of his own, just selflessly coaching baseball and spreading baseball. And, you know, like um, every year we have a dinner the night before Thanksgiving. Obviously, COVID's going to mess with that a little bit this year, but we meet up. And last year I had 17 guys show up to have a little fellowship the night before Thanksgiving at a little restaurant over in Arden, and just sit and shoot this stuff and talk with all the coaches. And it's just that's what it's all about for me, and that's why I'm still where I was at. I got the opportunity to coach, and I don't foresee myself going anywhere else until God puts it on me to go somewhere else. And I get asked to talk a lot about um, veteran teachers get that new teacher. They always ask, what's your number one thing about North? And it's like, well, I never look at the want ads. Like I don't ever, I've never searched around other school systems to see when they need another PE teacher or anything like that. I'm in the place that I'm supposed to be,
And
and
that's
that's
awesome. Yeah, your administration. I love your administrators over there. You know, I was a fellow principal with your principal there, and I mean, they're going to have your back. And you're exactly right. It's a great community. I live in this community. Um, yeah, I think that's huge right there when you can feel at peace where you are. Let's parlay that into your greatest coaching memory. I know you alluded to some of those players. That's the next couple of questions is the greatest memory, and you might even include some of those best players that you've coached if you want to mention.
well, some of my greatest memories were, I was able to, one of my best memories right now is last year. My uncle passed away, but my uncle was basically a part of the team. He rode the bus sometimes. He took tons and tons of pictures. He had a website that's pretty much dedicated to North Henderson athletics, and he was always on the sideline. And unfortunately, he succumbed to cancer last spring. But we had a service for him at Lake Julian, and a bunch of my players came from my team last year, and it was the weekend before we got shut down. But they all came and wore their purple uniform tops, and there was enough of them there that it was like it was special because it was like they were there for me now. It was really cool because it was like they didn't have to be there, but they weren't there for me all. It was for him too, and it was real emotional. And we had a game where gave him some love and like the clouds and just God was there. Robert was there. It was awesome. But the memories and players. Obviously, Alex Suter. We get a chance to have a kid with Down syndrome in uniform and played for us. And then when he's graduating, he asked me, he says, comes with me, big tears rolling down his face. What am I going to do now, Coach? I'm graduating. I was like, I guess you're going to have to coach. And so then he stayed on and coached with us. But obviously, Hunter Donaldson, Zach Gahagan, Ryan and Kyle Decker, and Adolfo Correa Pena. Those are some of those are some of the best players that I've coached. But the one thing that is common denominator among all those players, it wasn't me. I was pushing them, but they were the ones that were there. They were there. I was mowing grass, and they were already there when I got there. And hey, you guys need a Gatorade or something out of the concession stand. Coach, can we get some more balls? 'Cause we're missing something from down here. Let's let our kids have a little access to the cages that we have there, and the ones that want to work can get the work in, and those guys definitely did. But coaching memory, my first year making the third round of playoffs, you get a little jaded when you make those playoffs the first year and you get to the third round. And I had a good group of players that bought in to everything I was doing about halfway through the season, and it just started clicking, and we started playing, and we started really playing. And once you guys start playing, it's just you just sit back and go, all right. And practices, how everything is just like it's so great. And last year, unfortunately, one of probably would have matched or succumbed. Like I don't know if we would have made such a deep run, but the team we had put together for last year was special. They were going to be a really good baseball team from top to bottom, and it's unfortunate we didn't get to play, but had a couple kids sign out of that class. To get a kid that's signing this Thursday with another school, but those playoff wins are some of the ones that. But probably my favorite, as I was looking through all these pictures today, and I'm a talker too. I'm sorry, you can just shut me down anytime you need to. But senior day, 2019, was my uncle's actually the last game he photographed, and we were able to, most seniors, if you make the playoffs, you don't win your last game. It ends up in a lot more sad tears than happy tears, and you've been there plenty of times on a playoff game where you guys have won 12 games in the regular season. And that last game, you got to look at these kids that have been smiling all year long. And now it's just, and I'm waterworks too. I get out there with those guys and I tell them I love them and I cry on their like it's, I mean, I pour into them and I mean it. And it's, but that was senior day, and Reese Mercer, he got a win on the mound and he got a walk-off single. And it was a beautiful way to end this season when you don't win a state championship. So it was like, it was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, and you're right. When you go to the playoffs, the only person that's happy after playoffs is who won the state championship, and that is so hard to do to even to get to play to one. You're one of the most competitive, hardworking coaches around, and that's my observation. That's me saying that because I believe that from what I've seen. How has your strategic focus changed over the years? How would you say that you've matured as a coach from when you first started in this business to now?
Well, I appreciate you saying that, noticing that. Like I definitely, my intentions are always good. My actions have not always been the best, and that's one of the things that I've been blessed with was a real tenacity to like kind of be aggressive toward win. Like I like to win, I like to compete, but I feel like that's something inherently that all of us that get into this profession have that drive to to push, to want to be good and want uh to not that. And you and I know that now, like that's the thing I think as the weight that's off me now of knowing that none of these people that I'm trying to feel like I'm somebody or who I'm impressing. Like that's that when once my walk with God has gotten better to where I don't need to. There's no other judges of me. That there's like once I can wake up and go, I did everything I could. And I'm constantly attempting to get better. There's never a day. I tell our players all the time, like if you think you're learning more than me about baseball, please share with me because I'm constantly on it. I'm trying my best to find new things. I got my son in the backyard doing different drills. And he's like, what are we doing? I'm like, I'm not real sure, but it seems like it's working for you. So I might put this in work next week. And then I'll see something online and read books and constantly trying to get better. But if I go back and tell those teams from 2004, 2003, I was fortunate enough to coach JV football and help with the varsity at Robertson High School under Mike Houston when I was doing my student teaching. Um, that was those kids I probably should apologize to for the way I was way caught up in the coaching and the winning and the thing instead of the relationship stuff, and that's what's killing killing me right now is not having these kids in class all the day long, and not even just my baseball kids but just because when you're a coach, and Jim, you reach other kids too. You reach kids that aren't football players. You reach kids that aren't baseball players. You got that one kid that you give him some candy one day, and then for the next 180 days, he's on you. Like, and it just created a relationship with this kid because one day you had an extra biscuit, and now you're somebody to him, and it's just it's amazing. But like I'm in contact with a lot of kids through Facebook and things like that I did coach at the beginning, and some of them ended up being really successful. Police officers and military people and just a lot of things. But I've definitely switched focus in the past 6 or so years on being a relational coach, trying to get into hearts and trying to as much as possible express my love for God and the things that I've learned. And both of us were in a situation at one point where like, who's this old timer trying to tell me how to do this, that, and the other, and what's he know? And it's like I said the same thing, man. As long if one of you gets something out of what I say today, and it's a kind of a running thing in North, people know that if I get kids in the huddle, it may be a little bit of time. And then sometimes they're like, I had Jackie Corn, I'd be like, hey Jackie, I need you to give me the old wrap it up, like let's move on here, coach. You're killing us. You're killing me, Smalls. Like this is boring now. But once I get going, I'm a talker.
Well, I like what you said. I felt the same way. Sometimes I need to go back and apologize to some people. Especially when I first became a head coach, I was so caught up in wanting to be coach of the year and wanting to be this and wanting to win this many games that, I've actually apologized to some kids I've seen before. And you spoke to the mindset and the heart set, and coach is a good example. You guys that have watched this for a lot of weeks now, you see behind me there talking about Coach's Academy, and it's free. Yes, but Coach King is a good example of a three-dimensional coach. It's not only about the skill, that's 1/3 of it, but he also is good with their mindset and their heart set. And that's going to lead me into the next thing. This is Fellowship of Christian Athletes Coach's Corner. I want you to speak a little bit about FCA engaging with your team, some of the team building stuff, leadership stuff, and also, if I'm not mistaken, you spent the night in the gym one time with your team.
Oh, well,
If you could
yeah.
speak to FCA engaging and maybe some of those things you do that people might not know about.
Uh, Steve McNamara came to me before, and we started having weekly uh, devotional periods with him, and he would come in and meet with our team once a week, and we would set aside time, and then he taught me a little uh, he taught me a little trick to, hey, you want to pray with your players, have them invite you. And so the first game of the season, I told one of them, I said, I just, when I'm walking by, you just, if you guys are about to pray, just say, hey, coach, you want to join us? And then that kicks down the door. And then once we put our arms together, then they just know that's supposed to happen every game. And they invited me to do it. So that's a definite learning experience from FCA, just from having them there and then having the opportunity to get to kids that may not have any knowledge or have fallen away from it, like all of us have and all of us do every single day. And I tell my players constantly, I fall on my face all the time. I'm a sinner, and I lay in it, and I try to get up, and I fall short every single day of living to what the expectation should be for me as far as what God intends for me. Um, but just we did end up last year. We were like that same team. We went. This is the last night of the conference basketball tournament, so we cleaned the gym after the basketball game, swept the stadium, pushed all the bleachers in, and they gave us all the leftovers from the hospitality room. So the kids are slamming down Mountain Dews, and then it's like I know healthy choices were not a thing. And then and then but they're just eating, and then we play wiffle ball in the gym. Then we went down to the middle school because Jackie was down there, and we got scooters, and we did scooter races around the hallways in North Henderson. And then we played manhunt and had kids run around the school. And obviously we had certain areas, libraries, and places where they knew they couldn't go, but it was just cool for the kids. I mean, me too. I'm running around crazy, acting silly, and chasing them around, and playing with football and talking smack, and just just filling them up with the things that just hanging out. Like it's just like getting to see a different side of us. And then they would camp out in our clubhouse down by the baseball field, and Jackie was fortunate. I have a great coaching staff, and lost a coach this year. West Henderson, our loss is definitely their gain. But he stayed down there in the clubhouse with him, and I slept up in the press box because he was like, I'll sleep by the door. And I was like, okay, man, you take it down here. And it's just the stories that he's telling from down there is just like, I'm glad I was in the press box. But yeah, just, and those are ideas from FCA, just where anytime I would be like, Steve, you just came on last year, so we didn't get a chance to fully get involved in my team like we were going to. The leadership council that we started, we had it going every Tuesday morning. We had 3 or 4 kids showing up, and that's voluntary at 6:30 in the morning, and targeting potential leaders for our program and we actually stopped calling our captains last year. We started calling them leaders. And I was fortunate enough to have a leader last year who was not a guy that played every day, but he was the guy that did everything right every day. And I think when you call them captains, a lot of times you depend on people that are necessarily going to be on the field at the time that you need them to be on the field. But I feel like a leader can be someone, and that's where my heart for baseball and for these kids that want to be around it gets a little bigger because of my experience growing up. That when we started calling them leaders, it was just a little bit different, and it comes from also we do a lead program at our school, and the kids are getting this verbiage of how to be proactive and how to begin with the end in mind. If I'm thinking about being a state championship baseball player, then I better not start working on February 12th when the season starts. I need to start working. I should have already been working because there's somebody out working me. And if I want to be all conference or I want to do this, it's like you got to be the one that's I can't make you ask me to hit you 50 ground balls after practice. I can't make you show up on Sunday afternoon to hit and do all these things. And it just, those are things that through the message that we're getting is also tied into videos. And it even goes back to when I was coaching football with Coach Justice, Doug Justice, that he had every Friday we had a church feed us, and we went and got fellowship and devotion. And it was like, uh, no matter what, we were winning. We were winning because we had kids where they were supposed to be, and we had kids being prayed over and opening up hearts to just the idea of going to a church.
Yeah, that's so powerful that you speak of, and the leadership. For those of you watching, the leadership council was one thing that he that I had the privilege of being in, even though I was brand new till COVID hit. But those were some fun mornings with a lot of good topics and Christian leadership discussions. So I appreciate you bringing that up, coaches. We're winding down. We've got a good amount, not too much time left, but enough to get in a few more questions, Coach. 15, 20 years from now, down the road, what do you hope people that were in your program or were in your classrooms say about you?
Oh, it's easy that he loved us, all of us, not just the studs. He loved us, like all of us. It's all I tell him all the time, and I tell him it's not. I love all of you. If you're willing to come out here and dive in the dirt and be out here in the cold and do all these things because of baseball, I'm and I love them. And I've had as a coach, you have those experiences with kids that during the high school. I've been blessed this fall with some things during COVID. Like I had a kid who unfortunately had some difficulties making it through the program. And I get a text message from the main office a couple weeks ago. It said, "Hey, can you come see such and such? He's in the office." And I'm like, this is a strange request. And I go up there and it's, "Hey, coach, how are you? I'm doing good." And it was awesome. It was just like God working. It was just God bringing somebody back to me that didn't get to graduate, didn't get to graduate as a baseball player, didn't get to sign. I mean, we do some special things for our seniors, and one of the things they do is it start with the kid I went to his wedding this summer. He signed the locker before he left as like a tribute to himself before we just started doing this. And then I was like, you know what? I really like this idea. So whenever you leave here, we're gonna sign and date your locker that you were the senior in, whatever locker you're in. And we've done that since 2012. So we have these wooden lockers and they have autographs in them. That's the relationship that goes back to, I feel like the coaches that bounce around, I don't understand that mindset. I'm not them either. I'm not trying to judge anyone. That's I just I'm in a good. I love what I'm doing right now.
Awesome. That's awesome. But what you're doing is that 3D coaching. You're coaching the heart. That's spending the night and having the fun and letting your guard down, and treating everybody. That's one thing I admire about your coaching style. It could be a kid that's never going to get in a game, and he's going to get just as much attention and just as much love as a kid that goes and plays in the College World Series. So that's what we're talking about. Everybody watching us, we talk about three-dimensional coaching. A lot of coaches know the skills, and you have to know that. But when you get to the level like with Coach King here, where he's coaching all three dimensions, there's some special things that happen, as he's discussed in this interview about being invited to weddings and funerals, and they're wanting the coach to be part of their lives after the last pitch is thrown. So we admire you for that. Coach, I want to give you time here to give advice if there's young players here watching or parents of those young players. Give us some advice that you would want to tell a young player or a parent of a young player.
Well, for players, it's a process. When are you going to jump in that process? What's your end goal? What's your thing? If you think you're D1, then you better have a D1 work ethic. And if you're D1 and you end up being D3, then you should be grateful, because anybody that gets to play one pitch or snap or ball shot after high school is blessed to be able is pretty good. Like on any level, if you get to play, you did something. That's why I tell my guys, like, you go up there to McCormick Field, you stand there and you look at the guy standing all the way down the end, and you ain't seen him play in 17 games you've been up there to McCormick Field. That's one of the best baseball players you've ever seen. At some point in his life, he was the best when everybody was around him. And then I tell my guys this. I read Branch Rickey's book this summer, the guy that signed Jackie Robinson in 1947 for the Brooklyn Dodgers, and the quote that stuck with me with that book is, "Luck is the residue of design." And so uh, if we have a good process in place, then we're going to get lucky more than we're not. But we better have a good plan. We better have a good idea of, are we showing up for practice? Are we being there for our teammates? Are we? And that accountability on good teams doesn't come from me and these other coaches. That accountability has to come from them. When it's time to be good, they're going to be the ones down there banging in the cages an hour after practice as a group of guys, without somebody saying, "Hey, you putting in extra work." That those guys aren't the ones, like. But if you want to be those players and just love the game and learn the game, whatever game you're playing, you gotta love it. You gotta, like, if you don't love it, and if you're out there because your dad wants you to be a baseball player, then you shouldn't be a baseball player. If you're out there because your pappy wants you to play football, then it ain't gonna be no good for you. It isn't. It just isn't. It's that love for it. And I got told that when I first started coaching, of if you ever expect your players to love the game as much as you do, you're gonna be let down, and that happens a lot. Just as much, you see kids that just they got the ability, they just don't have the love. And then you see kids that have the love that don't have the ability, and it's just this crazy. And then Dean Jones gave me some great advice one year. He said, when I first got coaching, and he said, "Don't take advice from anybody that you didn't ask for it from." And those are two things that have stuck with me from the beginning, that I tell a lot of new coaches, like, if you don't want to listen to anybody, you don't have to. But I listen. That's what I talk to my coaches, and I said, I want your input. At the end of the day, it's going to be my decision what we go with, but I want you to feel value here. I want you coaches to, we have an issue, we go take care of it, and we talk about it, and I will try to do, and I may be wrong, but if I make the wrong decision, I'm going to come to you and say, "Hey, you probably should have gone with Johnny in the third inning there, but I didn't," or "We should have done this for practice." And I feel like I try to give my guys some ownership. But as far as parents, I feel like it's let your kids fail without getting in the way. Like, we all fail. We're all gonna fail. we're all gonna, like my dad didn't call anybody when I got cut. My dad made me go through that. Like, and it wasn't easy. He didn't just abandon me, but I'm saying he didn't make any phone calls. He didn't go out. He didn't send an email to the AD. He wasn't trying to. That was a decision that the coach made, and that's the decision that the coach made, and that's what we went with. Um, and trust your coach, trust these coaches, because I don't know. I've never met a coach that's not in it for the right reason, and that's to try to win games, but to try to be good people. Like, I mean, most coaches that you meet, that's the fellowship of coaches is just amazing to get to learn. And that's, baseball coaches are notorious. We learn from each other and take each other's ideas and run with them, and give each other the same advice. We might not tell you exactly what our play call is going to be, but we're going to tell you everything how to do it. And um we chose this for a career. I don't go tell the real estate agents how to sell real estate, and I don't go tell the trash man how to pick up trash. And I don't, and I had no problem with anybody else's job, but it's not my place. I don't know anything about being a mechanic. I don't go in there and start pressing buttons and pulling wires out and just say, hey, I think you should do this. Like, it just like, but the thing with baseball is everybody's dad has played baseball at some point, and then they see their little kids. You see a lot more hurt on your kid's face when they strike out, and then it's like, yeah, but striking out happens a lot. What is that going to push your kid to go back in there and work harder at it? Tell them to go practice more. Tell them to go practice more. And I think don't talk about your coaches to your kids in a negative way at dinner and on in the car rides home. And I may be a bonehead and I may make bad decisions and this, that, and the other, but I think the least amount that people can hear negative things about their coaches, and because I really am of the opinion that the majority of coaches are in it for the right reason. We just don't make enough money. There's just not enough in it for you if you're not just a people person trying to shed love, and in this case trying to let some kids find the savior.
Oh yeah. That's great advice too. Excellent advice. And most coaches I have on here have those similar words, and that's so true. Coach, we're so glad to have you on here tonight. I'm going to pray us out right now in a minute. Just give a preview of next week. You're going to be tickled to death. We're going to have Mike Clowney is a personal friend of mine, and he's also the head football coach at Carson Newman University. And you talk about coach said and Christian coaching values. Unbelievable program there. But Coach King, I'm going to thank you real quick for being on here. It was a blessing. Everyone that's watching this can see his heart. He has a heart for kids and for his community. And thank you, Coach. I'm going to pray us out real quick. Dear Lord, we just thank you for Coach King and what he means to this whole community, the North Henderson community, dear Lord. Coach King gets up every day and decides to do it to glorify you, Christ. Everything he does in his life now is to glorify you, dear Lord. And he's teaching young men how to be not only good baseball players, but good fathers and good students and good sons and daughters. All that stuff that any kid he teaches, male or female, God, that he comes in contact with, dear Lord, he has that impact on them. We thank you for that. Until next Monday night, in Jesus' name I pray, amen. Coach King, thanks again for coming on here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. See you guys next Monday night.